Hey everybody, welcome back to Rehash, a Web3 podcast. I'm your host, Diana Chen, and this is our first episode of season 9. In case you missed the guest selections, you can go check out the results of that and peep our upcoming season 9 guest list at rehashweb3.xyz. To kick off season 9, we are speaking with Pia, a contemporary artist, educator, and founder based in Istanbul, about all things Web3 and art. We reflect on the NFT craze of 2021, and Pia shares why, even though the hype has died down, NFTs are in fact not dead, and on the contrary, art NFTs have a long way to grow and develop. We also talk about the work she's doing at her studio in Istanbul called Yazane, where she's helping educate other local artists about Web3 and the impact that blockchain can have on their careers as artists. She not only uses the space as a gathering place and educational center, but also as a local gallery of sorts for local artists to be able to exhibit their works without paying the exorbitant fees that they would to traditional galleries. I felt really uplifted and inspired by my conversation with Pia and hope you'll feel the same way too. Don't forget to come join our community on Telegram at t.me/rehashweb3 to let me know what you thought of this guest and this episode, and also which guests you'd like to hear on Rehash in the future. And also, please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to help more people learn about Rehash. It really does make a difference. Pia was nominated by David Phelps and voted onto the podcast by David Phelps, Richie Bonilla, Forage, and Triumph. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Pia. Pia, welcome to Rehash. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on and being our first guest of our new season, season 9. I can't believe we are on season 9 already. But here we are, almost 10 seasons in. We're over 2 years in, and over 100 wonderful guests have come through this podcast, and I'm just so excited to speak with you. Shout out to David for finding you and bringing you into our community. So thank you to David and everybody who voted you on. So to start out, Pia, I would love for you to tell everybody a little bit about your background. You have a very varied background, and I think it's really interesting and really inspirational as well. Obviously, you're an artist, but can you just take us back to like what initially inspired you or attracted you to art in the first place, and then take us through your journey of all the different kinds of art that you've experimented with over time.
First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be part of the show, and congratulations on killing it for like 2 years now. It's a very long time when it comes to crypto space. So briefly to talk about myself, I've been in art education since high school. So I studied at American College Institute when I was very early on for elementary and middle school. And for the high school, my parents really pushed me to study like the basic art. That includes like sculpture, academic painting, graphic design, and various other like educational classes, basically. And with that, I really wanted to stay connected to creative-based education, let's say. So, of course, Fine Arts Academy was my way to go to. After high school, I studied stage and costume design and puppetry. My basic education is coming from a heavy theatrical background, opera, ballet. So very traditional arts where a lot of disciplines merge with each other. When you want to create a stage or do a puppet, you need to understand the basic like understanding of a sculpture, interior design, and with the costume, fashion history comes, of course, with the tailoring and understanding materials. And then I find myself in the film industry. I worked in the film industry for 3 years. And this one Guy Ritchie movie I was part of that was also shooting in Turkey. The camera department, my friends from there, really encouraging me to try NFTs because the people just did the everyday sale and it was everywhere. And they were like crypto bros in our crew, let's say. So I'm like, oh, what is NFTs? I'm not going to do NFTs. Like, I don't even understand what this crypto stuff is. So yeah, after like quitting film industry, a couple months later, let's say, I just like wanted to see where I can take myself on forward, but not really like, keep grinding and hustling in the film industry, because you're in the film, if you're once in this industry, it's like really hard to get back to other disciplines. So that while that me deciding what to do with my life, I produce a lot of digital artworks with my iPad. And like when it August 2021, I just remembered this like crypto bro friends of mine telling me about NFTs. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Now I don't really have a job. I have very lot of time spared for myself. So I'm just going to research what crypto is, what NFTs are about. And that's when I bought my very first Ethereum to mint my very first artwork on OpenSea. So that's briefly who I am, what I've done
Wow.
before crypto, and how I found myself in the space.
That is such a varied background. I feel like most artists I speak to just have their one lane that they stay in, whether it's like generative art or conceptual art or just like painting or whatever it is. And you've experimented with all those traditional forms of art, but also like things that are a little bit out there, like puppetry. Like that's not something that most people probably have experience with. I can totally see how all of those things come together and play together in your artwork and in your concepts. So when you finally decided to go back to this crypto bro in August 2021 and figure out what NFTs are, what was it about NFTs that finally clicked for you?
First decision was, of course, it was really flat forward. I just wanted to see and try this new discipline that everybody was talking about. I'm like a very curious soul, I may say. So I love researching about this new products and new technologies coming up. And for some reason, like the more not for some reason, it's because the more I learned of what like crypto and how blockchain works is more I found myself getting more involved in the space. So after doing a couple of like film projects while also like producing my art and also like selling my art and creating like a community for myself, I never really quitted the film industry. I was still like being part of other projects. And during 2022, that's when I said like, I'm over with this industry. I'm going to go full in being in the crypto space. But let's say like Web3 space, and now I find myself more of like, how can I push further this culture of like web native, digital on-chain media culture to in real life. And yeah, that's when it's just like another adventure began for me, let's say. But yeah. By the
Yeah,
way,
so oh
sorry.
yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Also, another reason why I studied is like I have ADHD. It's pretty sweet. So let me know if I just like hop on to another subject to another subject.
No,
Just
you're
my
perfect.
line.
You're perfect. I would be willing to bet that a vast majority of people that come on this podcast, myself included, have massive ADHD. So it works out for
Well,
all of us. When we think back now to that time of, summer 2021, that was like the peak of the NFT craze. Our NFTs, especially, were just blowing up so much. Like you said, Beeple's artwork blew up. Like people were it was like traditional artists were getting into NFTs, like everybody was, celebrities were getting into NFTs, like everybody was getting into NFTs. Looking back now, because obviously the times have changed a lot from 2021 until now, what do you think fueled all of the hype around NFTs back then? Like, what do you think was the thing that caused them to have their moment in 2021?
having a digital asset was never really been out there before NFTs. Even when I look at the art history, like I've been asking to like galleries about this. So just imagine if you wanted to collect like a digital native artwork, you have to get either a print that is signed by the artist, or they will be giving you, if it's a video art, for example, they will be giving it with you with USB. It brought a lot of more popularity, and now the market is actually growing, which I kind of enjoy, this thing not being that much hyped around, because hype like is great when you look at the sales and the profits wise, but hype is not really great to build a product or more sustainable cultures within the fast consumed internet cultures. And like I'm seeing NFTs as being a very significant tool, not only for art, but any digital assets in the future to become low prof. Let's say, I'm not even sure it will be named NFTs, but the technology will be used heavily in a lot of things. That's what I'm pretty sure at. And more I explored and experienced, that's what charmed me also too. So main reason why they got probably this hyped was the popularity and NFTs being very new for a lot of us. And it was kind of mind-blowing to, and even like Instagram did their profile pictures as like NFTs. So having a digital assets and kind of showing that off on your social media and your like, community that you gathered on there, that was like a maybe like a big flex for some people. Maybe it was like that excitement of this, like being part of this first wave of a change. But yeah, now I'm seeing more growing, more like a slow market, but definitely more well constructed in many ways.
How would you describe the trajectory that NFTs have taken since then? Some would say that NFTs are dead, especially art NFTs. They had their moment in 2021. Now they're dead, and they're dead and gone. Obviously, I don't think that is your opinion, and
Yeah.
it's not my opinion. But as you see it, where do you see the current state of NFTs, especially art NFTs? Because, NFTs have expanded. I mean, I feel like it's one thing to talk about like all the use cases for NFTs in our daily lives. For example, you can imagine it being used for events, and they have been used for concerts and admissions and things like that. Or like we're using it with podcasting, podcast NFTs. Obviously, we have music NFTs. There's this whole spectrum. But especially when we think about art NFTs, where would you just say that the status of art NFTs is, and what are those elements of art NFTs that you think have longevity beyond that hype cycle that we saw a few years ago?
I think what's important to understand when it comes to art NFTs is the community and the culture they bring to, let's say, on the chain. Because artists have this tendency of grabbing very early changes for before society. That's what made me also get really curious in the first place. So whatever artists follow, I really think it's a great highlight to at least like check at. And it's really easy to say NFTs are dead when you are probably with the wrong community, let's say. But a lot of yeah, of course, the sales are down, and also there is a lot of debate between what art is, what art is not. With AI, this also kind of fired up a lot of discussions and misconception, like conceptualizing of what the terminologies means and how it got executed, of course. So there is not only NFTs being dead, it's about people is now like learning and slowing down. Our collector base is not really that much growing, and we're losing like active artists. So in the first place, this is like a change. Nobody promised anybody anything, but people got involved themselves, and they can't really blame anyone or the market. When I hear NFTs are dead, it's just like a way to kind of maybe relax the self when it comes to, because like, yeah, I mean, when you look at the sales, they're definitely very much down, but there is a growing consensus in the art market, in the NFT art market, let's say. And I think what brings value in the future won't be the NFTs that are minted very randomly, very much not knowing which platform to mint. Every cycle we're going to see I think the like the state of highs and downs. It's like a heartbeat. It's like a good going meme coin like chart, you know. It has its ups, it has its downs. So I think with this growing and all of this healthy debates happening around what art NFTs are and what art NFTs are not, the outcome will be they won't exist, because there's so many digital artists out there to embrace the technology and its development that's been used for in the first place. A lot of people who natively embrace this culture also within themselves too. If those people stay and keep doing what they already was doing, NFTs won't will rise up again, let's say.
Do you think they'll ever rise up again to the level that we saw them at in 2021?
I don't think so. I think that's like, eating a McDonald's for the first time. I mean, the second and the third one is never the same. So it's only natural for this hype wave to happen. But it's also like this alternative culture that we are trying to compete with the traditional understanding of art. And it's really hard to break some, let's say, like conceptual boxes that's been built over time. It's just like, oh, I created this technology. I found this technology. Let's just shift from traditional understanding to new understanding. That's not happening that easy. We might not never see that much of a hype again, but the hype will there will be hypes, and like I said, downfalls maybe, and the up. What would you say? This is my second language, so downfalls. What would be the
Downfalls,
opposite of this?
upward trending, upward trends. I
Yeah,
don't know.
upwards.
I'm not doing any better than you.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we think about like And actually, I don't really know even in the traditional world how it works for an artist. Like if you are a new artist, you're trying to make it, what is that typical path for you traditionally? Is it like you have to get your artwork into galleries, or like
Yeah.
what's usually that path for a traditional artist?
So I've never been represented by a gallery before. I did open several art exhibitions around the world traditionally, but those were very academy based and not like school based, let's say. And how the path works for like a traditional artist, if I have to give like an example from Istanbul's current art market, they would be curators would be reaching to them and they would be sealing a deal with a gallery. So you will be giving all of your rights, your sale rights and your artwork rights to this like one certain gallery, and you depend on them to make a sale for their upcoming exhibitions. If it's a question mark that the curator will pick your work or not. So that's like a huge like hard hill to climb up. And still it's a question mark that this work will get sold, and even if it gets sold, the gallery percentages in the current art world and here is starting from like 40%.
Wow.
So just imagine you have made a sale about like $100,000, you will be giving $40,000 to the gallery eyes blind, and still you need to give the government your sale taxes, your
Yeah.
income taxes, your art taxes. Sadly, our country specifically has a lot of taxes. So, like with the NFTs, it's actually mind blowing how easy it was to create this network between you and people who wishes to invest in you, wishes to just like collect from you. So I think that's a huge power, like ropes to hold, let's say. And that's why I still believe in NFTs. That's why I think it will never be like unseen or dead. It won't be just used to make fast profits in a very short time. That's it.
Mhm.
It's like that was already not healthy at all, and we've been hurt, like, as I think, as a space and a community wise, a lot from that like hype overloads and then that being down, because this is it's on internet, it's a social media thing, and like psychology naturally gets affected by these current states of the market.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because it sounds like in the traditional art world, like everything happens so slowly. Like the process of getting your artwork into a gallery and then getting that sold to a buyer, like that, I imagine, is a very long process. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of funny how when people, move to the digital realm, that like all of a sudden they expect things to happen super fast. Even
Yeah.
though it's the same thing, you're still selling artwork. It's always been really slow. Why do we expect it suddenly to happen super fast and in greater volumes? I think that what you hit on, that point of the artist and the buyer having that like direct relationship rather than having to go through a middleman, a third party, a gallery,
Yeah.
is what's really powerful here and builds. I think that's a big part of what helps us feel like there is a stronger community within the NFT world, is because we have such closer relationships and more direct relationships between creators and buyers or fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like even the creators to creators collabing on this digital realm is much more easier than actually do like a physical collaboration with an artist as well. So it's like the opportunities the space is opening for the artist is immense. It's like I'm not even sure how can I can like list them one by one, but basically these would be the things that I would highlight, and the connections, the network, the decentralization factor. Like a lot of artists from global worldwide made an income by, selling their art and making this a form of business, because when you gain money, this is like a business now.
Right.
And you created your first business and you're the brand and you're branding yourself, and now you have every kind of like cooperative ropes in your hand without even you like realizing, basically. To make this available in a traditional like experience would be much harder. You need paperwork, so you need a certificate that's like telling that if you're an artist, where you're belonging, like coming from, what you're doing, biographies, and it's just like so many things, necessary or not necessary, you need to face and kind of, like I said, climb up that really hard path. That's why I'm like very grateful for the whole space, including this by this like factor of decentralization, I had a lot of like crafted a lot of great friendships that I'm pretty sure that last longer than many of my like how can I say this? I believe they will last like very long, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, I totally feel the same way about all the friendships and connections I made in the space as well. So, speaking of galleries, then where do you see the future of galleries going with, digital art taking shape more and NFTs and things like that? Do you think that galleries will be able to sustain the model that they've had, or will they become obsolete in 20 years or in 50 years, or what is that relationship? Because I think in the NFT world, in the Web3 world, when people think about NFT art, I think galleries isn't really something that is talked about very much or that is represented very well. So where do you see the connection? Like, where do you see the future of galleries, and where do you see the relationship of galleries and Web3?
I think the whole art gallery, art world, whatever you name it, they're already struggling. It's already collapsing in the general, like worldwide, let's say, when we look at the cultures established on top of galleries. There are only certain like countries that actually have a solid, great art market. It's not worldwide. Everybody's like currently like, when there's economic crisis, art is not the first thing people hold on to. It's
Right.
like basically asset that you can liquidate. But when it comes to art galleries, it's like the real world tokenization will reflect on them. It's just like real world asset tokenization. So how if that's going to make a peak, it will also reflect on the art market too. So even for now, like when I look at Istanbul Modern, which is one of the biggest like contemporary museums that also has their own established collection of artworks, they also have an NFT artwork in there. So these galleries are already preparing to step up their game and to learn, because a lot of like local galleries that I am in contact with, that they know that I'm doing NFTs, and I've been like trying to suggest to help them to kind of sort this blockchain like technology integrated with their sales form. Honestly, the most saddest thing that I witness is whenever I see a FUD coming about NFTs and me selling my artworks as NFTs from these traditional collectors mostly, is because of the ignorance they have towards the space and towards what NFTs really are. Because we've been telling a lot of like NFTs, like there's so many words, like it's been kind of used too much to, like refer a lot. So let's say on-chain media, maybe that could be a lot like suitable, or like yeah. But anyway, so if they can understand what blockchain stands for, if they can understand how this technology like works, consensus of what we are like building all together, I don't think they would be this much distant to the idea of the NFTs, including galleries, including like contemporary art museums. But I'm pretty sure in the future we will be seeing a lot more NFT provenance, let's say, the blockchain provenance artworks.
How do you see us incorporating more Web3 tools into how galleries traditionally operated? Because I think it's interesting that you said we're starting to see NFTs being displayed in galleries, because on the flip side of that, I think what happened in 2021 a lot of is people try to build these digital galleries, right? Like these digital metaverses, crypto voxels, for example, or Decentraland, where you could go and walk around this metaverse, and you as an artist could have your own little corner of this metaverse, and you could display all of your artworks there, and I can walk around and look at your artwork and look at other artists' artwork. So these two are kind of like opposite ways of thinking about the galleries and Web3 melding together. I'm curious if you could describe a little bit more where you see that future and how you see maybe new Web3 tools being used to better the experience of galleries or change it completely. I don't know.
To give it an example, like I couldn't hold myself with like too much digital. I need to touch a material, right?
Yeah.
But since my like artworks are digital, of course I'm gonna use this digital technique to print like a sculpture, let's say. So I did actually printed a sculpture and sold this during Miami Art Basel while I was showcasing Maker's Place and Transient Labs. Huge shout out to those too. They are like, for example, why I'm giving this as an example is that was like an in real life piece where I carried and shipped all the way from Turkey to the United States to Miami, and that piece being sold as an NFT is the key that we're looking for, because I was able to use Trace. And what Trace is basically, it's like a chip that integrates the NFT to the physical piece. So I think by bridging those two understandings in the middle, what the future will be shaped like. And those bridges could be built by many, many disciplines. There are so many forms of how we can do this. There is also like a creator perspective, a creator, like the artist perspective, gallery perspective. For like the middleman wise, well, actually I would love to like touch what Yazane is and what we're like doing there.
Yes, please.
So I founded Yazane to be a solution to this gallery monopoly created by the private establishments when it comes to sales of the artworks, because a lot of my friends are like great artists, they're still selling for great amounts, but when the money is like minus because of these like, you know, giveaways, let's say, payoffs, they just end up with like money that they might survive only end of the month with. And like I've been in the art world since like high school, as I said, so I know a lot of artist friends like suffering from these, and I've been telling them about my journey in NFTs. And now I had the opportunity to create the space where my goal is basically to teach them about these tools that we also use in the space to democratize their own art. They will be making their own sales without any galleries needed as a third middleman. So this is also like a revolutionary like education for a lot of people, because a lot of the time many artists that I like encounter with doesn't really speak well of English. That's why they were not really exposed to the technology. But slowly and steady, I think people are really embracing this and spreading that to the people they wish to support, to the people who wish they can, you know, like maybe interested with. It will take like good community members, you know, spreading the world and building like a cultural anything that's related with what we're doing here. So by Yazane, I'm like educating also like artists, but also like giving a lot of artists a free space where they will be throwing an exhibition without any gallery involved. So creators can bring their collectors to the exhibition without any gallery. And if the creators will make a sale to one of their like like collectors, they will only get like, let's say, 5% fee and not 40. So that's also already like the roots of what we are doing with the NFTs merge with traditional art sales and how galleries could cooperate. Because the galleries, like reasoning of them is, oh, I'm taking like a rent fee from you. I'm taking like drinks from your sale too. Well, I'm bringing also the creator, so that's also like an addition to our fee. So I'm like, we don't have to do this. We can make creators and galleries work for us, because artists basically is the one that's making everybody's income by selling their own works, if it makes sense, and giving the rights to this XYZ like private companies to make a sale for themselves. But you know, we done and see that we are well capable of like empowering ourselves with this technology, but the culture within also.
That is super cool. I'm curious how you go about finding these artists to bring into your studio. Are these mostly people that you're friends with, artists that you're friends with that you want to tell about crypto, or has it become this well-known thing where artists are actually applying to come into your studio? Because I would imagine that you don't have unlimited capacity for all artists in Istanbul to come to the studio. And also, you know, you want to make sure, even though it's the artists or the curators that are throwing these exhibitions in your space, I'm sure you still want to make sure that there's some level of quality there and that the exhibitions are of good quality to like maintain some reputation for your studio as well.
That's so true. So for my very first show was Unleash, and John from New York, actually one of my newest friends and my collector. He's we just like talked like 5 minutes on a phone call, and I told what I was like planning to do with the whole Yazane Studio, and he just like bought a freaking ticket to Turkey, Istanbul, and make an event with me and sponsoring my very first event. So for now, it says sponsorship based exhibitions. If anybody wishes to just like have an in real life exhibition for themselves, there's like like it's very transparent with me. Like there's the screen rentals, and if you're going to be in there in person, well, there will be drinks too. So could like be able to cover those. I will be doing every kind of execution you will want. For now, Yazani is very, very niche and like not really that like big. And we just onboarded two more artists to our studio. So I was working with another traditional artist of mine, Daniela. We're now planning actually her first solo show in the space. And by only show in the opening, our first exhibition, we did exhibit like 57 or 58 artists. That was like very fun to do this because you're like, as an artist, we can do what galleries are doing already. So why not
Yeah.
just keep pushing? But yeah, there was like one thing I also wanted to say, but I forgot. I will remember.
You'll remember it. I was gonna ask, what have been some of the biggest challenges you faced in starting Yazane and bringing in artists and curating these exhibitions?
Creating it.
Yeah.
Like that's the most difficult part. Like with the John Sport, like our submission form got more than 200 like artworks within two
Wow.
days. So I had to
Wow.
close it early. And the hardest part was like selecting who to showcase, because like if you give me an opportunity, I would love to use it for everyone. I can't really I'm horrible at making selections, so I tried to diversify my creation when it comes to disciplines. I wanted to pick like something from 3D art, illustration,
Mm.
AI, whatever you bring on the table. I just wanted to have that, like a good creation of more diverse like disciplines, and
Yeah.
John did the other half as creating. So yeah, we kind of cooperated in that side. He was a great help though. Like I'm really, really grateful for his friendship.
Yeah, I can imagine. Do you take other factors into consideration when selecting who to feature as well, in terms of like their story, their journey, things outside of just what their artwork looks like?
So now, like, I'm an artist too. So also have my own story, own journey, and
Hmm.
sometimes I do reflect this on my description part, and sometimes I really just pass it on because I want to know. I don't want to bring too much of the conceptual iceberg, like the ones that we don't see, on top of this tiny little exposure of the artwork itself. But I think how I select is really depends on if of course, repetition is like one thing. I really want to make sure that the selection of the artist like didn't copy anything, like didn't play it easy, let's
Right.
say. So that was my very first thing, because I think a lot of like digital artists got burned because of the plagiarism and stealing, right click saving, as we know. So that's like one issue I'm really careful with and learning about. And the other part is definitely just I don't even like sometimes I find myself in a state where I'm like I don't want to look at the names, because names also creates like an additional like criteria without even you knowing it. So I just try to like stick with the artwork, and if it's like appealing to me, I just select it and then read the description and check the artist.
Yeah, that's so good that you recognize that, first of all, because I think that is an experience that everybody has had at some point. And it happens, the first thing that comes to mind for me is like when you apply for a job and you send in your resume, your name is at the top of the resume. And that's the first thing people see when they're looking to hire. And that alone, like just looking at that can already create certain biases, subconscious biases, like you were saying. And I think that's something that needs to be talked about more, and we need to be more conscious of, because most people don't even think about that and don't realize the effect that that can have on hiring people, on admitting people for galleries, like all sorts of different things. If you could have like any tool, that if you could just like dream up any tool and it would exist, what is a Web3 tool that you really wish existed that could make your life so much better, you and all the artists you work with?
there's like the more options. I love options, but it's like when you have so much options with like in a single space, it can get a lot like chaotic
Yeah.
because those like options have their own cultures, have their own communities. So I'm like, for myself, I'm an artist that's like dancing between the lines, like little very thin lines, let's say. I'm like, oh, I'm also like, this is also like an appealing as an idea or whatever, as a gallery or as a tool. But I'm also like very like close to this idea or whatever this is. I want to be like everything and nothing kind of mode on, but this is something I'm like just conceptually throwing at you currently as a tool. What would be really useful is a very clear list of like the artist we are. Like I was very horrible with my seed phrase in my for my very first wallet, and my second wallet also got hacked of phishing, and I was really dumb about it. And but I don't get angry with myself. I was a newbie, and this stuff
Yeah.
was really really new for me. So a tool to not get rugged as an artist, the technology can be really hard to keep up with because you are in your own world, like in a creation mode, and then there is like development stuff,
Totally.
which is
Yeah.
like very far away from it. That's why maybe I love generative artists because it's like right in the middle. But
Yeah.
other than that, it's like two very separate worlds. Like I don't expect a sculptor to be a great developer and understand in computer language. So maybe like a translating computer languages that's warning us constantly for these rugs, that would be
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
would be I would love to see something like that too. That would
And
be hugely
oh, I
beneficial
think I
to,
got I
I
lost
think,
you,
not
but
just artists, but onboarding. We always say onboarding the next billion to crypto. If we want to onboard the mainstream, people don't want to have to worry about getting rugged all the time. Like people
yeah.
who've been in this space since, 2017 or earlier, they're used to it. Like they're used to having to think about that all the time. But
Um,
anyone entering the space now, we can't expect any of them to like care to think about this. They're gonna get rugged once. They're gonna lose their seed phrase or get their money stolen once and be like, well, that's that. Crypto's a scam. I hate it. I'm never doing it
yeah.
again. That's going to be the normal reaction. So, and I think we are working towards that. I think, MetaMask even has like some warnings now for you when a contract is unverified or looks suspicious. So we're getting there, I think, slowly but surely.
Exactly. There's so many builders working on this issues, precisely the consumer crypto. And like, of course, like if you want consumers, you gotta be more safe.
Yeah.
And people just, it's like it's very wide open, like because like we trust the banks, and I'm not going to debate on like the centralized and decentralized financial systems, of course, but banks can cover up what the risks pretty well too. Maybe as a space we need to kind of be more like appealing and less chaotic in the senses of like the risk taking. But yeah, like, and maybe a tool for like a profile that gathers all of my artworks from each of my wallets, and
Yeah.
being fully on chain. Like I know that's hard. Like I know.
Well, actually, I was just thinking, Zarian Wallet, I don't know if you use Zarian, but they actually do a pretty good job
They
of
do.
showing you all of your wallets. I have all of my wallets on there, and oftentimes if it's like an NFT art, like it'll show the little thumbnail. I can see what it is. So that's
Yeah.
the closest I've seen, but yeah, like a gallery of sorts, like an online gallery of sorts that combines
Yeah.
all of your wallets. That would be really cool.
Yeah, like that would be cool. But I downloaded the Ryan wallet, but I think I set it up too, but never really use it. I'm definitely gonna check that out.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite one. I think they have the best like UI. It's like the easiest to see for just like a normal person. So I want to make sure we have a chance to hear about what you're working on now. Obviously, it sounds like a lot of your time is going towards Yazane Studio and educating artists and setting up exhibitions and things like this. But in terms of your own personal artwork, what are you working on?
I am working on a drop that I can't be very much vocal about, but it's like it's going to be one of the biggest drops that I take apart, called
Wow.
like also both like size wise and also culture wise, let's say. But yeah, like that's this one thing I'm working on currently for my art. And maybe I can say like also I'm working on a new real life acrylic painting of the same digital artwork that I've done. So that's
Ooh.
the first painting that I will be doing after many, many years with like on canvas with acrylic and, very traditional. That's what excites me the most. And this drop that I will be taking part in, and I wish to just like make a giveaway to like one lucky winner maybe. But also besides art, we're like with David's platform, Craze, we're planning to like drop art contests for a lot of artists because we know the sales are down. So like why not just, secure some grants and maybe like get into more like like contest culture, because that also is a great opportunity to make another like additional income in their journeys. So I'm working on that, but I find myself fully like, just whatever power or voice I have, I really want to support and push this space further and see how I can do this as an individual that's been in the space for 3 years now, made great connections, friendships, and build a little career for myself too. So that's like really, really precious. I respect everybody who is in the like, kind of in this page.
Yeah, real quick, I'm intrigued by the contest. What types of contests are you thinking about running?
Like those will be basic like art contests. For now, I can't really give like a further insider, let's say, but it will be like some will have jurors, some will have like open votings. So that will be a lot of like, I feel like there's a wave of these gonna come and happen. So why not like, try to push it a little bit like faster and like not better. I'm not really competing with anybody at this point, but myself only. But yeah, I'm trying to find like more opportunities and create more opportunities. So this contest will be something that I will suggest to stay tuned, let's say.
Amazing. Well, last question we ask on every episode is for the guests to give us a can you not? And so this can be like a pet peeve of yours, something that you just want to be like, can you not do this? Like, can we just stop doing this? Do you have one for us today?
Can you not towards you, right?
No, just like in general. Okay, or towards me, towards me. That's fine too.
That's why I wouldn't find anything to say. Can you not create further dramas? My people, I love them all, but we are full of dramas. Let's stop. Let's make peace with whatever, like, the reason we're fighting for, and let's fucking go. Like,
I love it.
Yes, rock and roll.
I love it. I love it. So many people have said some version of that on the podcast, actually. Like, it could be like, some people have said, like, can you not be competitive with everyone? Like, can you not just, like, want to fight everyone all the time?
I love that.
The fact, too, that, like, all of these guys have said that recently also tells us the vibe of the space right now is a bit too much drama, too much fighting. We want less of that. And it seems like everyone wants less of that. So I don't know who's out there causing the fights.
I agree. Like, there's so many people who's been like, kind of burnt out because of those unnecessary dramas. But
yeah.
Of course, like, it's only natural when there's, that's why I was telling you in the first place, like, when there's so much hype, it's great, but it's gonna come down.
Yeah.
So let's make it more stable. Like, call me boring, whatever, but I'm looking for the long run, okay?
I'm so with you. So with you. We need to, like, as a space, I feel like we need to learn how to not let the highs get too high and the lows get too low. Like, we just need some balance. Maybe one day we'll get there.
Fingers crossed, but
yeah,
we just get the energy out there at least,
Yes, we love it. Love it. Send it out into the world. Yeah. Last thing, Pia, before you go, tell people where they can find you so that we can keep up with your upcoming drops, your big acrylic painting, the joke race contest, everything you're working on. Where can we go to stay up to date with everything you're working on?
I wish I was like more active on Warpcast, but you can find me on Twitter, basically more active, and I will be posting both platforms, and my tag is P1A by Pia. So please do find me from those handles on both platforms, and stay tuned for the contest shares, or maybe my drop.
Yeah.
Posting very, very soon.
I cannot wait for the drop. It's so mysterious now that you've, it's like what you just did is like, I know a secret about you, but I can't tell you. And now I'm just like, oh my God, I have to know. go. I can't wait. Hopefully we won't have to wait too long for the drop. I'm super stoked to see it, and we will include the links to your Twitter and Warpcast in the show notes as well to make it easy for people to click through. But thank you so much, Pia, for taking the time this evening to come on Rehash and talk to us and share about your journey. I enjoyed our conversation so much, and hopefully it inspired some artists who are listening to experiment more with Web3 tools and to be more open to all of that. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Diana, for having me. Honestly, it was a great pleasure to be in the space and making this podcast with you. I felt so comfortable in the entire period. So I am grateful once again. And thank you so much. And
that makes me so happy. Thank you so much, Pia. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Rehash. Rehash is hosted and produced by me, Diana Chen. Rehash is also supported by our community of NFT holders who curate our guest lineup each season. To get involved, head over to our website at rehashweb3.xyz and collect this episode as an NFT. Anyone who collects an episode becomes part of the Rehash community and will be able to nominate guests for future seasons. To learn more about how to become a guest on the podcast, go to rehashweb3.xyz/podcast. And to learn more about sponsoring the podcast, go to rehashweb3.xyz/sponsor. Finally, be sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at rehashweb3 or on Warpcast and Lens at Rehash. And join our community on Telegram at t.me/rehashweb3. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. See you next week.